Good afternoon, everyone. And today we're going to be starting our little series, election by election, and discussing why incumbents have won. Or why incumbents have lost in the cases where they did. Before we get into that, I do wish to discuss, or at least mention casually, Howard Schultz considering a run. The way he's acting and talking about how he's not going to be a spoiler and how anyone is foolish if they think he is, as I think he's going to be a spoiler, plus the fact that he seems to think that there's a place for a centrist candidate, and the way he is bad-mouthing half of the Democratic Party. I think it's more likely than not that he actually does announce. He's giving a tour, he's facing a lot of heckling, and as we found in 2016, telling people that they're making a bad choice and and just attacking them for making their choices is probably not a good idea, because that's kind of how Trump won. Is people were insulting Trump voters, and they decided to double down on what they wanted to do. So Howard Schultz might actually run, and I kind of want him to run because I have a bit of a morbid curiosity, but I also want to see how well he does. It'll really help. It'll really help our understanding of American politics to see how well he does. Okay? So, now on to the actual topic I want to discuss, which is the election of 1800, the fourth presidential contest in American history. And it was decided, by the way, it was actually also decided in the House, but we don't have to talk about Aaron Burr versus Jefferson. We just need to talk about Jefferson versus Adams, because this is the important part. In the election of 1796, Adams beat Jefferson. And I think part of that was because Adams won New York. By the way, New York was considered a swing state at the time, and to a degree, so were Pennsylvania and and so was Pennsylvania. Really, these states that I am, meant to remove Pennsylvania. Though Maryland was also a bit swingy. So these were kind of the swing states, the mid-Atlantic states. New England, which Massachusetts should have Maine added into it. Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, they were primarily Federalist states, and the southern states of Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia were predominantly Democratic, Republican, more agrarian states. So I'm actually going to quickly reset the map just to demonstrate. And if people thought the 2016 election was toxic, this one was almost as much so. Adams wasn't particularly popular, especially not with the he just wasn't popular anymore. He had been the vice president under George Washington, and hilariously, Jefferson was the vice president under Adams. But here's the thing. Adams had a lot of unpopular policies. He was an Anglophile. Back in this time period, the two parties were split over whether or not they were going to be more like Britain and have a bit more of an English culture, or whether they would be closer to France. Now, of course, this is not too long after the Revolution, so being pro-Britain, you kind of had to keep it on the down low, or at the very least, you had to make it, you wanted only certain aspects of their culture. You wanted, their industriousness, and that's one of the reasons why Federalists did so well in New England, is it was a industrial haven, and this was actually the start of the Industrial Revolution at this time. And New England states and some of the Mid-Atlantic states really liked that. More agrarian states tended to favor more of a Jeffersonian plan. And so the question was, at this time, did you want someone who was getting borderline suspending certain constitutional rights, aka natural rights enumerated by the Constitution, protected from the government, as in the Alien and Sedition Acts, as well as someone who was getting maybe a little too cozy with Great Britain? Or did you want Jefferson, who didn't see the government as a tool used to enforce his own beliefs? It was more about promoting Americans to live the way they wanted to. And Jefferson won. He was a popular figure. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. He had been governor of Virginia. He had the qualifications. He had been Secretary of State, Vice President, Foreign Minister to France, what we would now call an ambassador. He was extremely popular. Adams wasn't, and Jefferson also had a bit of charisma, but they didn't really campaign for themselves at this time. It was more you let your surrogates and your newspapers that endorsed you do the campaigning for you. And there were some very funny ads, including one that kind of said that Adams had that John Adams was a bit of a hermaphrodite. Oh man, that lacked neither the firmness of a man nor the gentle nature of a woman. If people thought 2016 had good insults. I mean, seriously. So, yeah. Adams lost because he was unpopular, had a lot of unpopular positions. There was no real challenge, but also the nation didn't like how he was handling certain foreign affairs. So let's actually, I'm going to start making a list as to why certain things happened and see if there's a common thread and we can, match that up with 2020, because a lot of people are thinking that Trump doesn't have a good chance of being reelected. Now, if you use this election, which is one of the rare rematches in presidential election history, yeah, I can see how you would, if you were using just this election as your base, I could see how you can say Trump doesn't really have a chance. Trump isn't exactly the most popular president out there. Okay. He has, endorsed and pushed for some rather unpopular policies. But Adams was never charismatic like Trump is. Say what you will, but Trump does have charisma. In addition, Adams had pretty much violated the Constitution. Everybody accuses Trump of violating the Constitution, but I've yet to see it. I've yet to see the evidence for that. So, if you have it, give it. If you don't, shut up. And maybe that's a bit more bellicose than maybe I should be, but it's kind of true. So this election is a wash, whether or not you can use it to figure out if Trump's going to win or not. I'd say it's a wash. Some people may use it as evidence that he will lose. I don't really see it proving that Trump will win re-election. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Bye.